The signal had come from the dark edge of known space. It was weak, broken, and almost lost inside the noise of the stars. Yet it was there, a single plea for help. No one in the Galactic Council paid it much attention. They had their own wars, their own politics, their own species to protect. But on Earth, inside a silent control room under the Atlantic Ocean, human listeners caught it. The voice was trembling, mechanical, and yet full of life. Please, anyone, help. For years, humanity had been quiet. After the first contact war, Earth had pulled back from the stars. They built walls around their systems, swore never to interfere again. But now, something in that signal woke an old part of them. The part that could not watch someone suffer. The part that had sent rescue ships into hurricanes and lifeboats into burning seas. The part that had always answered a call for help. At first, no one believed it. The signal came from a dead zone, a stretch of black space where even light seemed slower. Old maps called it the Rift. No ship had ever come back from there. But the voice was still calling. It sounded small, like a child whispering in a storm. Humans had a choice: ignore it like everyone else, or answer. Inside the council chamber of New Geneva, military leaders and scientists argued. We cannot risk our fleet, one admiral said. This could be a trap, another warned. But an old commander named Varga leaned forward. Her hands were scarred from old battles, and her eyes had seen too much loss. We don't ignore distress calls, she said softly. Not now. Not ever. So the ship Aurora was chosen. It was not the biggest, not the strongest, but it was fast and silent. Its crew was small, just 50 men and women who had volunteered without hesitation. Some were veterans, some were scientists, some were only there because they could not stand waiting. They were humanity's answer to a forgotten cry. As the Aurora slipped past the edge of human territory, the stars grew thinner. Space turned dark and empty. Radio signals vanished. Even the navigation systems began to stutter. But the voice grew clearer. Please, we are dying, it said now. Sometimes it broke into sobs, sometimes it spoke in a language no one knew. The crew listened in silence. Among them was a young technician named Lien. She had joined only weeks before. Her job was to decode the signal, to find its source. She sat for hours with her headphones, eyes closed, fingers moving across glowing controls. It's not one voice, she whispered one night. It's thousands. All overlapping. Like a whole world screaming but fading away. Captain Rourke, a quiet man with iron-gray hair, stood behind her. He didn't speak much. He didn't need to. Everyone on the Aurora knew he had lost his family during the first contact war. They also knew he had volunteered first. On the third day, the ship passed into the rift. The stars disappeared completely. Outside, space was black like ink, dotted with faint blue flickers that moved like slow lightning. The crew felt as if they were sailing into an ocean of ghosts. The air grew colder, the lights dimmed. Even the engines sounded muffled. And then they saw it. Floating in the dark was a ship unlike any they had known. It was vast, broken, and bleeding light from deep wounds. Its hull was cracked open like the shell of a dead animal. Strange symbols glowed faintly along its sides. No power signature, no weapons, no movement. Yet the signal came from inside it. Lien's hands trembled as she traced the coordinates. It's there, she whispered. The call is inside that ship. Captain Rourke gave a single order. Prepare a boarding team. The crew suited up. Their boots clicked against the deck as they moved to the airlock. Weapons were checked, scanners warmed, helmets sealed. No one spoke. They all felt the same thing, the weight of a mystery older than their species, and the pull of something they could not yet name. As the airlock hissed open, the dark of the rift rushed in. The boarding craft detached from the Aurora and glided toward the broken giant. Its surface was cold, its metal scarred by unimaginable forces. The closer they came, the more the blue flickers of light moved around them, like distant eyes watching. Inside the alien ship, silence reigned. The corridors were tall and curved, built for beings much larger than humans. Strange organic cables hung from the ceiling. Pools of glowing fluid lined the floor. Every sound echoed, their breaths, their footsteps, the slow beat of their hearts. Then, from the shadows ahead, a shape moved. It was small. It crawled slowly, dragging itself across the floor. It had too many limbs, and its skin was pale and thin like paper. It lifted its head when it saw them. Its eyes, huge, black, and full of pain, locked on the humans. And then, in a trembling voice that was both alien and familiar, it spoke the same words that had crossed the stars. "Please, help us." The humans froze. Weapons lowered. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The rift around them seemed to hold its breath. What had begun as a rescue was becoming something far larger. None of them knew it yet, but this single moment, this single plea, would bring humanity back to the stars. And the stars, long silent, would soon tremble. The small aliens' words echoed through the dead halls of the ship. The boarding team stood frozen, their weapons half-raised, caught between fear and instinct. Captain Rourke stepped forward slowly, palm open, his voice low and steady. "We're here. We heard your call. We want to help." The alien blinked, its black eyes reflecting the light of their helmets. Its limbs trembled. It tried to crawl closer but collapsed, too weak to move. From the shadows came a faint sound, a low, steady hum like a heartbeat buried inside metal. "Lien," Rourke said quietly over the comm, "scan the ship again. I want to know what we're standing on." Lien's fingers moved across her wrist console. Data flickered on her visor. "Captain, there are life signs everywhere. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Deep below. Very faint." The team exchanged looks. If that was true, this ship was not a tomb. It was a hospital, or a prison. Rourke knelt near the alien but did not touch it. "Who are you?" he asked softly. "What happened here?" The alien's voice came in broken human words, as if pulled from a translator full of holes. "We, fleeing, hunted, engines, gone." It coughed, a wet sound, and its body shook. "Please, others, below." Before anyone could answer, the deck under their feet vibrated. A low groan rose from the walls. Dust drifted from the ceiling like ash. "Captain," one of the Marines warned, "this ship's coming apart." Rourke's eyes stayed on the alien. "No," he said. "Something else is here." The lights of their suits flickered. For a second the corridor darkened. In that moment, Lien thought she saw movement at the far end, not crawling like the small alien, but gliding, tall and silent. When the lights returned, the corridor was empty. They moved carefully. 2 Marines carried the small alien on a stretcher. Lien followed, her scanner pulsing. The readings below were stronger now, more distinct, shapes stacked in deep chambers, some still alive, some fading. They reached a shaft leading downward. It was wide and lined with cracked glass. Below, dim blue light pulsed like a dying star. "Looks like an elevator," one Marine muttered. "Not anymore," said another. "We're climbing." They descended in silence, boots on twisted metal, the sound of their breathing loud inside their helmets. The deeper they went, the stronger the hum became. It felt like standing next to a giant heart. At the bottom they found a door twice the height of a man. It was sealed but cracked in the middle, leaking faint mist. Strange symbols glowed along its edges, flickering like candlelight. Lien touched the door gently. "It's some kind of stasis chamber," she whispered. "But the power is failing." Rourke gave the order. "Open it." The Marines set small charges along the crack. The blast was low but sharp. The door groaned and split. Cold mist rushed out, wrapping them like fog. Inside was a vast hall filled with rows of pods. Each pod held a creature, some like the small alien, some taller, some winged, some nothing humans had words for. Most were still. A few twitched weakly. Their eyes flickered open and closed. All of them were thin, starved and dying. Lien's voice broke. "They're refugees," she whispered. "An entire species. Maybe more." As they stepped inside, the hum shifted. It grew faster, like a warning. Red lines of light appeared on the walls, sliding like snakes. The air tasted of metal. On the far side of the hall a shape appeared. Tall, angular, and black like cut stone. It moved without sound, its edges blurred by a field of static. Where it passed, the pods dimmed. The alien on the stretcher began to shake violently. Its eyes went wide with terror. "Hunters!" it hissed. "Run!" The black shape turned its head. 2 points of red light blinked where its eyes should be. It started forward. Rourke's voice snapped over the comm. "Form up. Protect the pods." The Marines spread out, weapons aimed. But their rifles flickered as if something was jamming them. One Marine fired, the bolt of energy bent in midair and vanished. "Nothing's working," someone shouted. Lien looked up at the ceiling where cables hung like vines. "The ship's core," she said. "If we restart it, maybe the defenses will come back." Rourke didn't hesitate. "Go. We'll buy you time." Lien ran toward the central console at the hall's edge, her boots splashing through frozen mist. She tore open the panel, wires spilling out like veins. Her hands moved fast, following alien symbols she didn't understand but somehow felt. Behind her the hunters moved closer. They didn't walk, they glided, each step making the air colder. The Marines stood their ground, firing useless shots, their voices tight with fear. The small alien reached out a shaking limb toward Lien. "Key," it whispered. "Heart." Her fingers found a crystal the size of a fist inside the panel. It pulsed weakly. Without thinking she pulled it free. It burned cold in her hands. The hunters stopped. All their red eyes turned toward her. "Lien," Rourke shouted. "Whatever you're doing, do it now." She slammed the crystal back into a slot above the panel. Light exploded across the hall, bright white, like a sunrise under the sea. The pods glowed. The mist boiled away. The hunters screamed, not sound, but a vibration that rattled their bones. Their forms blurred and melted back into the walls like shadows at noon. Silence fell. Only the hum of the ship remained, stronger now, like a heart beating again. Lien fell to her knees, the crystal still glowing above her. Around her the pods flickered to life, their lights steady. The small alien's voice came soft, like a sigh. "Saved." Captain Rourke helped her stand. His visor hid his face, but his voice was steady. "This isn't just a rescue anymore," he said. "It's the start of something bigger." None of them knew it yet, but beyond the rift, other hunters had already felt the awakening. And they were coming. The glow inside the alien hall slowly faded to a soft white. The pods were stable now, their lights steady like a field of stars. Lien stood in the middle, still breathing hard. The cold crystal pulsed inside the console like a living heart. For a moment, it felt peaceful. Then the Aurora's voice cut across their helmets. The ship's AI, sharp and urgent. "Captain Rourke, multiple energy signatures detected at the edge of the rift. Unknown craft inbound. Fast." Rourke turned his head toward the boarding team. "That's them. Hunters." His voice was calm but heavy. "We're out of time." One of the Marines stepped closer. "Sir, what about the aliens? We can't leave them here." "We won't," Rourke said. "We take who we can. Secure the small one and prep the pods nearest the shaft for transfer." Lien glanced at the rows upon rows of beings still sleeping. "We can't move thousands. The Aurora isn't big enough." Rourke's jaw tightened. "Then we hold until reinforcements come. Or we don't leave at all." Above them, the ship shuddered. Dust drifted down like falling ash. The mist rippled. Somewhere far away, metal screamed as something large scraped against the hull. The Marines worked fast. They sealed small pods into portable containers and lifted them onto anti-grav sleds. The small alien, still weak, pointed a trembling limb at another section of the hall. Heart, control, lift ship, defend. Lien crouched beside it. You're saying the ship can fight? It blinked, slow and pained. We built, safe, now broken, you fix. Her eyes darted to the glowing console. If she could connect the crystal to the ship's command core, maybe it would power up its weapons, or at least its shields. She turned to Rourke. I think this ship still has teeth. Let me try to wake it. He nodded once. Do it. We'll hold the hall. Lien dashed across the floor to a second console marked with spirals of blue light. Her fingers hovered over alien symbols. She felt like a child reading an ancient prayer, but the meaning slipped into her mind as if the ship wanted her to know. Behind her, the Marines formed a semicircle at the door. Their rifles hummed weakly, half jammed by the rift's strange energy. Shadows gathered in the corridor beyond. Red eyes blinked in the dark like embers. Contact, one Marine whispered. The first hunter stepped into the light, taller than a man, thin and jointed like a blade. Its black body shimmered with static. Two more followed, moving without sound. Fire! Rourke ordered. Blue bolts leapt from the rifles, splashing against the hunters like rain on stone. The creatures staggered but did not fall. One raised a long arm. A ripple of darkness rolled from its hand, bending the light around it. The nearest Marine's visor cracked. He stumbled back, choking. Rourke drew his sidearm, an old-style ballistic weapon. The bullet hit the hunter's head with a metallic thud. This time it jerked, hissing like steam. Aim for the head, he barked. Lien heard none of it. She had plunged the crystal into the second console. Lines of light shot across the floor like veins. The whole hall vibrated. Symbols rose into the air, spinning around her hands. The small alien whispered, "Key, bridge." She closed her eyes and pushed. In her mind a map of the ship opened, decks, chambers, power flows. At its center was a dark node pulsing faintly. She reached for it, felt resistance like cold water, and forced the connection. Suddenly the walls blazed with white light. The hunters shrieked, their forms flickering. Rourke shouted over the comm, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Outside the hull, the alien ship began to move. Old thrusters groaned awake. Invisible fields unfolded like wings. Energy shields rose, catching the first strikes of the approaching hunter craft, long black spears of metal sliding through space. On the deck, the hunters lunged, faster now, trying to break through before the ship's defenses could harden. Two Marines went down under slashing claws. The air filled with sparks and smoke. Lien felt the ship respond like a giant animal stirring from sleep. "Yes," she whispered. "Wake up." She sent one more pulse of command. The ship's weapon nodes lit across its skin. Outside, beams of blue fire lashed out, tearing the first hunter craft apart. The blast rattled the hall. Everyone froze for a heartbeat, stunned. Then the ship spoke. Not in words but in a deep sound like a choir. It vibrated through their bones. The pods glowed brighter. The hunters inside the hall recoiled, hissing. One by one they melted into shadow and vanished. Silence dropped like a curtain. Only the hum of engines remained. Rourke lowered his weapon slowly. "Status," a Marine answered, voice shaking. "Outer hostiles destroyed. No more contacts on the scanner." Lien sagged against the console. "It's not over," she said. "This was just a scout force. More will come." The small alien managed a weak nod. "We must leave Rift before many." Rourke looked at the endless rows of pods. "We can't save them all. Not yet." Lien straightened. "Then we take the ship with us. If I can lock its systems to the Aurora, maybe we can tow it, or even fly it out." The idea was insane. The ship was vast, broken, half alive. But Rourke saw the determination in her eyes, the same determination that had brought humans across oceans and up mountains. Do it, he said. Everyone else, get ready. We're taking a ghost ship home. As they began the desperate work of linking human and alien systems, none of them noticed the faint red spark rising from the remains of the hunters. It drifted upward, unseen, then shot into the black rift like a signal flare. Far beyond the rift, something huge stirred. The alien ship's hull shook as if a giant hand were gripping it. Ancient engines groaned, sending tremors through the decks. Lien clung to the glowing console, fingers flying over alien symbols. She had linked the Aurora's systems to the ship's core, but the connection was fragile, like string between two storms. On the Aurora's bridge, the AI's voice was clipped and fast. Captain Rourke, Hunter Fleet detected. 17 craft. Mass signatures increasing. Intercept in 6 minutes. Rourke stood among the rows of pods, helmet off now, sweat streaking his face. He looked at Lien. Can you move this ship? I can, she answered, breathless. But the engines are cracked. They'll break if we push too hard. Push anyway, he said. The small alien lay on a stretcher near them, its black eyes half closed. It whispered in its broken voice. Shields, hold, only short. Rourke touched his comm, Aurora, prep docking clamps. We're flying this thing out. The Marines moved fast. Antigrav sleds hummed as they ferried pods up the shaft toward the airlock. Some carried wounded comrades. Every face was tight with the same thought, survive long enough to escape. Outside the rift was a swirling emptiness. Faint blue flashes darted through the dark, like slow lightning. At its heart, the alien ship began to turn. Its cracked hull glimmered with new power, but the wounds were still open. Pieces of metal broke away, spinning into the void. Lien closed her eyes and sent another command. The ship shuddered and answered, ancient thrusters spitting pale fire. On the scanners, its silhouette moved for the first time in centuries. The Aurora latched its clamps, engines roaring. Two ships became one, a wounded giant and a small predator hitched together. Then the hunters arrived. Black craft slid out of the rift like knives. Their hulls were smooth, their edges too sharp for human eyes. They moved without sound, but the space around them rippled. They came in waves, surrounding the alien ship. Red light blinked in their cores like beating hearts. Contacts in range, the AI said. Shields at 30%. Weapons online but unstable. Rourke drew a long breath. All batteries, fire. From the alien ship's broken flanks, beams of blue light burst outward, not straight but curved, bending like whips. They lashed across the nearest hunter craft, tearing two apart instantly. The blast lit the rift with a false dawn. The hunter fleet answered. Red spears of energy stabbed toward them, striking the shields. The deck lurched. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Somewhere deep below, a pod shattered. Lien gritted her teeth. Engines to full. Now. The Aurora and the alien ship lunged forward together. The rift's edge flickered ahead like a black curtain. If they could cross it, normal space, and reinforcements, waited beyond. Another wave of hunter craft swooped in, cutting across their path. One slammed into the shields, scraping along the hull with a scream of metal. The impact knocked Lien off her feet. She hit the deck hard, stars bursting behind her eyes. Two Marines grabbed her arms, hauling her up. We've got you. She shook free and stumbled back to the console. I'm not done. Her fingers slammed symbols she barely understood. The ship roared. Hidden cannons opened along its spine, spitting blue fire. 3 more hunters exploded. On the bridge of the Aurora, alarms howled. Shields at 15%. Structural failure imminent. Rourke's voice stayed steady. Hold the line. Keep the path clear. The small alien stirred on its stretcher, eyes wide. Heart, deeper. Use, drive. Lien bent close. What drive? It pointed weakly at the deck beneath them. Not thrusters. Fold. She understood then. The alien ship wasn't only a transport. It had a jump drive buried deep, one that could tear a hole in space. If she could wake it, they wouldn't need to cross the rift. They could skip out in one leap. She spun toward Rourke. There's a faster way. I can trigger its full drive. But I need power. All of it. His eyes met hers. Do it. The Marines braced as the hull shook again. Hunters clamped onto the ship like black insects, claws digging deep. Red energy poured through the cracks. The deck trembled. Lights flickered. Lien plunged both hands into the console. Symbols rose like smoke. She reached for the ship's heart, the same cold node she had touched before, but deeper now, like diving into an ocean. She found a sleeping engine vast as a mountain. It stirred at her touch. The hunters sensed it. They howled, a soundless vibration that cracked visors and made ears bleed. They hurled themselves at the hull. Inside, red lines crawled along the walls like veins. Lien. Rourke shouted. Now. She pushed. Energy surged through her like ice water. The ship's heart flared white. For a heartbeat, everything went still. Hunters frozen mid-lunge, the rift silent as stone. Then the world inverted. Light folded inward. Space tore like paper. A tunnel of white opened ahead, swallowing the ship whole. The hunters nearest it were dragged in screaming, their forms breaking apart. The Aurora and the alien ship vanished into the fold. Silence fell. Only the faint echo of a dying star remained in the rift. Inside the fold tunnel, everything was blue and bright, a corridor of light. The ship tumbled, shields flickering, engines screaming. Lien clung to the console, barely conscious. Rourke gripped a support beam, his eyes on the endless tunnel. Where are we going? One Marine gasped. The small alien's voice drifted from the stretcher, weak but certain. Home. Safe. If hold. But Lien felt the strain. The fold drive was cracked. It wouldn't hold for long. Somewhere in the tunnel, she felt another presence. Not hunters but something even larger, moving through the fold like a shadow whale. They weren't out yet. Blue light stretched forever, bending and twisting like a river made of glass. The alien ship and the Aurora drifted inside it, both clamped together, both shuddering under forces no human had ever felt. Every surface glowed faintly. Sparks drifted through the air like falling snow. Lien held the console with both hands. Her helmet readouts flickered. Fold drive unstable, the AI said in a flat voice. Integrity at 30%. Captain Rourke planted his boots and steadied himself against a rail. Around him Marines floated in half-gravity, gripping straps, eyes wide. The small alien lay strapped to a stretcher, its eyes closed but its limbs trembling. Where does this tunnel go? Rourke asked. The alien's voice came soft, as if from a long distance. Safe space, if survive. Lien closed her eyes and felt for the ship's heart again. It beat irregularly, like a dying drum. She whispered, hold together, but the console spat a warning. Core fracture imminent. A deep sound rolled through the tunnel, not from the ship, but from the light itself. It was slow, massive, like a whale calling under the ocean. The Marines looked at each other. One muttered, what was that? Lien felt the hairs rise on her arms. Something else is in here, she said. Far behind them, the blue tunnel darkened. Shapes formed inside the light, huge, slow-moving silhouettes. They glided with impossible grace, bigger than the hunter craft, bigger than cities. Their edges rippled like wings of smoke. The small alien's eyes snapped open. Its voice cracked. Fold predators, we never outrun. Rourke's voice stayed steady. Weapons. Offline, the AI replied. Energy diverted to drive. Another low call echoed from behind, closer now. The tunnel itself trembled. Threads of light snapped and curled. The ship rolled sideways, metal groaning. Hold on, a Marine shouted. Lien's fingers flew over alien symbols. She didn't know what she was doing anymore, only that she had to keep the drive alive long enough to get out. "If I cut power from shields," she muttered, "I can feed it to the core. But we'll be naked." "Do it," Rourke said without hesitation. "If we stay here, we're dead anyway." She yanked the command. Shields collapsed with a hiss. The hull was bare now, no barrier between them and the fold's strange light. For a heartbeat, everything seemed calm. Then one of the shapes struck. A dark tendril of energy whipped forward, brushing the alien ship's flank. The metal screamed. Lights burst. 3 pods tore free and spun into the blue void. The Marines lunged but could not reach them. The pods vanished. "Drive at 50%, the AI said. "Trajectory unstable." Lien's breath came fast. "We're slipping off the tunnel. I can't hold it much longer." The small alien's voice rose, clearer than before. "Not run. Fight. Heart can burn." "Burn what?" Lien asked. "Light itself," it whispered. "Old weapon. Cost heavy." She understood. The ship had one last defense, hidden deep. It could flare the fold drive, turning the tunnel's energy into a blast, but it would also tear the ship apart. Rourke's eyes met hers. He didn't have to ask. "Do it," he said quietly. She hesitated. "If I trigger it wrong." "Do it," he repeated. "We'll find a way to live with what's left." Behind them the predators drew closer, their shapes now clear, long bodies like serpents, mouths of spinning teeth made of light. They opened wide, swallowing the tunnel's glow. Lien took a breath and plunged her hands into the console. Symbols flared, burning white. She reached for the heart one last time and whispered, "Wake up." The ship answered with a sound like thunder. Power surged through every deck. The crystal above the console turned blindingly bright. "Brace!" Rourke shouted. A wave of pure white burst outward from the ship, rolling through the tunnel like a shock front. The predators recoiled, their forms shredding under the light. The tunnel convulsed. Blue walls cracked, spraying shards of light. The aurora shuddered violently. Metal tore. Pods rattled loose. But the tunnel ahead split open, a rift within the rift, showing a scatter of real stars beyond. "Now!" Lien cried. "Jump!" Rourke slammed the manual release. Engines roared. The ship lunged forward through the crack as the tunnel collapsed behind them. For a heartbeat they were blind, spinning, stars wheeling around them. Then silence fell. Normal space. The rift was gone. The alien ship drifted, scorched and cracked, but alive. The aurora clung to it like a remora. Alarms beeped weakly. Marines stared at the stars, stunned. Lien sagged to her knees. Her hands shook. "We're out," she whispered. "We're actually out." The small alien looked at her with wide black eyes. "Debt, beyond words," it said softly. Then it fell unconscious. Rourke stood straight, looking at the distant lights of known space. "We're not safe yet," he murmured. "The hunters will follow. And now the galaxy knows we're back." None of them saw, far away in the darkness, a new fleet waking, drawn by the flare inside the fold. Bigger than the hunters. Older. Waiting. The alien ship and the aurora drifted at the edge of human space like two ghosts. Scorched metal glinted in the light of a nearby star. Inside, the crew moved slowly, exhausted, carrying pods, tending to wounds. The smell of burned circuits and cold air filled every corridor. Lien sat on the deck near the glowing console, helmet off, hair damp with sweat. Her hands still shook from the fold blast. She watched the pods lined along the bulkhead. Each one held a different being, some with wings, some with fur, some like moving crystals. Most slept. A few stared back with faint, tired eyes. Captain Rourke stood at the main viewport. "Signal Earth," he said. "Tell them what we've found." The Aurora's AI pulsed. "Transmission sent. Delay 40 seconds." No one spoke. The bridge felt like a held breath. Then the screen lit. The face of Admiral Katri appeared, hard and pale in the glow. "Captain Rourke," she said, voice clipped. "Your report is extraordinary. You have crossed the rift and returned with survivors." "Yes, Admiral," Rourke said. "Thousands. Multiple species. All fleeing something called the Hunters." Katri's eyes flicked to the pods visible behind him. "We'll dispatch medical ships and analysts immediately. But you've ignited a storm. Every world on the Council has seen your transmission. They're demanding answers. Some are demanding we send the aliens back." Rourke's jaw tightened. "They called for help. We answered." The Admiral's face softened for a heartbeat. "Understood. But be ready. You're not coming back to a hero's welcome. There's fear out there. And fear spreads faster than light." The screen flickered and went dark. Lien looked at Rourke. "They don't trust us." "They haven't for a long time," he said quietly. "But that's not why we came." In the medical bay, the small alien lay on a clean bed under soft lights. Tubes fed clear fluid into its thin body. Its eyes opened when Lien entered. "Where?" it whispered. "You're on our ship," she said. "You're safe. For now." It blinked slowly. "Others live. We saved as many as we could," she said. "But who are you running from? What are the Hunters?" The alien's black eyes stared past her, as if seeing something far away. "Old enemy. Not machines. Not life. They eat light. We fled. You came." It reached out a trembling limb. "You woke ship. You wake more." Lien frowned. "Wake more. Stars," it whispered. "Sleeping stars." Then it drifted back into unconsciousness. The next hours were a blur. The Aurora docked with a medical transport. Medics in white suits began moving pods one by one. Scientists crowded the airlocks, pointing, recording, their faces pale with awe and fear. News feeds flickered across every screen. Human ship returns from the rift. Unknown species aboard. What did Earth bring back? On the bridge, Rourke watched the feeds without expression. Crowds filled streets in New Geneva and Mars City, holding signs, some welcoming, some warning. Words scrolled under the images. Council emergency session convened. Debate over refugee crisis begins. Lien joined him. "They're calling it the Rift Exodus," she said. "Half the galaxy is talking about it." He gave a small nod. "Good. Let them talk. The more they talk, the less they shoot." A soft chime sounded. The AI said, "Incoming transmission from the Galactic Council." The screen lit again, showing a vast chamber filled with alien delegates, glowing spheres, feathered creatures, scaled beings, all seated in a ring. At the center hovered the council speaker, a being of silver mist. Its voice was a layered whisper. "Humans," it said. "You crossed the rift. You returned. And you brought this." Behind Rourke the pods floated past, carried by medics. "You broke the compact," the speaker said. "You interfered beyond your borders." "Why?" Rourke straightened. "Because someone called for help." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Clicks, trills, rustling wings. "You do not understand what you have done," the speaker hissed. "The Hunters follow scent. By saving these, you bring them here." Rourke's voice stayed calm. "Then we'll fight them here. Together." Silence fell. Some delegates stared at him with fear. Others looked down as if ashamed. One, a tall avian, rose slowly. "We have hidden from the Hunters for ages," it said. "Perhaps hiding ends now." The speaker's misty form pulsed. "We will consider your words. But know this, if the Hunters come, the stars will burn." The transmission ended. The screen went dark. Lien exhaled. "They're terrified." "So are we," Rourke said. He turned to the viewport, where the alien ship floated, a broken giant, now tethered to human hands. "But fear isn't what we're built on." Far from them, beyond the outer rim, the hunter fleet gathered. Red lights blinked in the void like a swarm of coals. At their center something larger drifted, a shape too big to be a ship, its body wrapped in dark bands of energy. It opened an eye the size of a moon. A faint vibration rolled outward, touching every listening array. On Earth, in hidden bunkers, humans heard it and froze. It was not a plea for help this time. It was a promise. The stars trembled. Darkness spread across the edge of human space like ink spilled on a map. One by one, the hunter ships slid out of the void. They did not arrive with engines or light. They simply appeared, black shapes against the stars, their red cores pulsing. Behind them drifted the thing that led them, a mass of dark bands coiled around a hollow eye that glowed like a dying sun. It was too large to be called a ship. It was a moving wound in space. On Earth, alarms wailed in underground command rooms. Screens filled with red symbols. The words Hunter Fleet detected flashed across every console. Officers shouted orders. Satellites blinked out as the darkness swallowed their signals. Above Mars, the Aurora and the alien ship floated at anchor inside a ring of human warships. The refugees had been moved to orbiting hospitals. Marines lined the decks. Pilots strapped into fighters that had not flown in decades. For the first time since the First Contact War, humanity's fleets were at full readiness. Captain Rourke stood on the Aurora's bridge. The glow of dozens of tactical screens reflected in his eyes. Beside him, Lien adjusted the interface that linked the alien ship to human systems. The small alien, still weak but awake now, sat upright in a support cradle. Its black eyes flicked between the displays. "They are here," it whispered. "All of them." Rourke nodded once. "Then we hold the line." Across the system, other voices joined. Ships from outer colonies, small but fast. Old defense platforms rearmed. Civilian freighters converted into gunships. Even a few alien delegates from the Council, ignoring orders, sent their own craft to assist. A loose, nervous fleet gathered like a shoal of fish before a shark. Lien glanced at the small alien. "Can your ship fight again?" "It remembers," it said softly. "But you must guide it. Together." She swallowed and placed her hands on the glowing console. Alien symbols rose like sparks. She felt the great ship stir, still wounded but alive, waiting for a command. Outside, the hunter fleet moved closer. Their red cores pulsed in time, like a heartbeat. Space bent around them, swallowing light. Fighters launched from human carriers, forming thin lines against the dark. The moment felt like the pause before a storm breaks. Rourke spoke over the fleet-wide channel. "This is Captain Rourke of the Aurora. We answered a call for help. Today we stand together, or we fall alone. Target the hunter's cores. Stay in formation. Trust your wing." Voices answered from every ship, deep, high, human, alien, a chorus of copy, ready, standing by. The sound filled the bridge. Then the hunters struck. Red spears of energy lanced out, slicing through the nearest defense platform. It cracked apart without a sound, spinning debris into the void. Fighters swerved, engines flaring. Human warships returned fire, beams of blue and white stabbing at the dark shapes. The first hunter ship burst open, spilling a spray of red sparks. The rest closed in. Lien felt the alien ship tremble under her hands. She pushed a command. Its cracked hull glowed. Weapons rose from hidden wells, long spines of light. They fired, sweeping arcs of blue across the swarm. Hunter craft recoiled, several dissolving into shadow. On the bridge, the small alien spoke in a low chant. "Heart of stars, burn bright." The ship answered with a deep hum that rattled the deck. Energy surged into the Aurora's guns. Rourke gave the order to fire. Beams of pure white cut through the dark, opening a path. But the leader of the hunters moved at last. The hollow-eyed mass uncoiled, bands of dark energy stretching outward. A wave of distortion rolled across the battlefield. Human screens went black. Fighters tumbled, their engines dead. 2 cruisers vanished in a blink, erased without explosion. Lien gritted her teeth, sweat on her face. "It's trying to crush the whole field," she said. "If we don't hit it now, everything stops." Rourke's voice was steady. "How?" She looked at the small alien. Its black eyes met hers. "Ship's heart," it whispered. "One more time. Open all gates." She knew what it meant. The same fold flare that saved them inside the rift, but stronger, wider. It would burn the hunters, but it might tear the ship apart completely. Rourke didn't hesitate. "Do it. We came here to answer a call. We finish it." Lien closed her eyes and reached for the heart. The alien placed its thin limbs over hers, guiding. Together they pressed the command. Symbols exploded into light. The ship shuddered, its cracked hull blazing like a small star. Outside, the hunters sensed it. They lunged, red energy pouring toward the Aurora and the alien ship. But the flare came first. A sphere of white light burst outward, expanding like a silent sun. It rolled across the battlefield, washing over human ships without harm but tearing through the hunters like paper. Red cores winked out. Black hulls crumbled. Even the great hollow-eyed leader recoiled, its bands fraying, its single eye dimming. The flare faded. Silence dropped across the comms. Only drifting ash and broken shadow remained where the hunter fleet had been. On the bridge, Lien slumped against the console. The alien ship's lights dimmed to a soft glow. The small alien swayed in its cradle, eyes half closed. "It is done," it whispered. "For now." Rourke looked out at the scattered stars, at the mixed fleet holding its formation. "Not for now," he said quietly. "For the first time, we fought together. That changes everything." Across human space and beyond, the images went out. A wounded alien ship and a human fleet standing side by side, the hunters destroyed. Worlds watched. Old fears cracked. New voices rose. And far away, in the deeper dark, something older than hunters stirred at the edge of the void, watching the flare fade, considering. The stars trembled again, but this time, not with fear.